Hello so creatives, it's Faustina here. Welcome to another interesting tutorial. On today's tutorial we are going to learn how to cut and sew this beautiful corporate gown that you can rock with chiffon shirt or any shirt of your choice. You see how beautiful it's looking on me? So if it's something that you would like to learn how I cut and put it together, please keep watching and let's move over to our drafting table. And if today is your first time of coming across my channel, you are welcome. My name is Faustina. I post more of sewing tutorial, sewing hacks and DIY. So please don't forget to like, comment and also subscribe. So let's move over to our drafting table. So this is the material that we are working with. We are working with 1.5 yard of stretchy and thick crepe material. The texture of the crepe is very thick and it draw at one side while the other side doesn't draw. So let's move over to our drafting table. So I'm gonna mark out all my starting line. So for the box I made use of quarter of my hip plus extra 3 inches because we have a dart that is running from the waist to the hem part of our beautiful gown. So the 3 inches will serve as the dart allowance by the side. So we are going to cut the down part first before we now go ahead and cut the upper part. So for the down part, I'm basically going to minus the upper part from the down part like so. So our upper part is 16 inches. So I'm going to minus 16 inches away from my pattern like so on the upper part, and I'm going to impute the remaining length of our gown like so. So after I minus the 16 inches which is the upper part from my shoulder to my waist, I went ahead to impute the remaining length of our beautiful gown. So after getting the length of our gown, we now start drafting the down part of our beautiful gown. So from the waist I came down by 9 inches from my hip line. So from the waist I came down by 9 inches from my hip line. After getting my hip line, I'm going to reel it out like so. And from my hip line I'm going to come down by 10 inches to get my knee line. After getting my knee line, I'm going to rule it out also. This knee line will give me an edge to pencil my gown very well. So after getting all our vertical lines, I went ahead to label them. So we now start imputing our horizontal lines. So from the waist I'm going to impute my waist divided by 4 value. On my hip I'm also going to impute my hip divided by 4 value. While on my knee, the value that I have on my hip, I'm going to minus 1.5 inches from the value. I now impute the remaining value on the knee. So that is to say, if I have 9.5 on the hip area, I'm going to minus 1.5 from the 9.5. I will be left with 8 inches. I will now impute the 8 inches on the knee and also do the same on the hem of our beautiful gown. So I will go ahead and join the dotted line. But because we have a dart, a plating dart that is running from the waist to the hip and to the knee and to the hem part of our gown, we are going to now add the allowance of that dart by the side of all our vertical measurement. So I went ahead to add 2.5 inches all down our vertical measurement. So I added 2.5 inches allowance on the waist, on the hip and on the knee and also on the hem part of our gown. So I'm going to now join the lines together like so. So the reason why we added the 2.5 inches because of that dart that is running from the waist to the hip and to the hem part of our gown, and the dart is kind of planted. So after marking out our dotted line, we now start imputing our dart intake. So from the center front of our beautiful gown, I'm going to impute our nipple to nipple measurement. So from the center front I'm going to impute our nipple to nipple measurement on our waist, on our hip, on our knee, and also on the hem part of our beautiful gown. So I'm going to join the lines together like so, all the way to the hem part of the gown. And after getting our nipple to nipple point, I'm going to open up the dart by 1.25 on both sides. Remember, we added 2.5 inches dart intake, so we are going to divide that 2.5 inches into two and now share it on both sides of the dart leg like so. So I'm going to impute the dart value on the waist, on the hip, on the knee, and on the hem part. That was why we added the 2.5 all round our vertical measurement. So because the dart is running from the waist to down to the hem part of our beautiful gown, so I have to rule it all the way to the hem part, and this is our dart. So this dart, we are just basically going to fold it inside like so. You see how I'm folding it? So this is how we are going to also fold it on our fabric. We are going to fold it like so on our fabric and now stitch on the second dart line like so. So after folding in the first dart line, we are now going to sew on the second dart line to keep the plenty in place. So we are done drafting the front pattern, so we now move ahead and draft the back side. But before we go over to draft the back side, I went ahead to refold our dart intake and remeasure our value, so that we will be very sure that we are at the right track. So I went ahead to refold it and remeasure the value that I have. On my hip I have 9.5, and after remeasuring I still have 9.5. On the waist I have 7, and after remeasuring I still have 7, while on the knee I have 8, and I still have my 8 value. So we now move over to the back part and now start drafting the back pattern. So like I said, I like drafting both the front and the back together. That's why I always create a box for each pattern. So for the back, I use the quarter of my hip, which is 10 inches. So I have to rule out the lines, our hip line, our knee line, and also the hem line of our beautiful gown. So after ruling out the vertical lines, we now start marking out the horizontal line. So from the center back, on the waist area, I'm going to come in by 1 inch. I'm going to rule out that 1 inch to go and meet my hip line like so. So on the waist, from that 1 inch, I'm going to impute my waist divided by 4 value plus 1 inch dart intake. And on the hip line, I'm going to impute my hip divided by 4, and I'm going to rule out the line like so. So while on the knee, for the back penciling, I'm going to come in from the side back, come in by 1 inch, while on the center back I also come in by 1 inch. That means I divided the 2 inches on both sides to get my pencil gown for the back pattern. So that is how you go about the back penciling. So I divided the 2 inches into two for the two side, both the center back and the side back like so. So I have to rule it out from my hip, from the two side of my hip like so. And I also do the same thing on the hem part of our beautiful gown. So I have to rule it all straight to the hem part. So for the waist, we are going to impute our nipple to nipple measurement and now impute our dart intake for the back. But we are going to close up this dart because we won't be needing any dart on this particular pattern, because our fabric is stretchy fabric. And also note that because our fabric was stretchy, I went ahead to minus 2 inches from our actual body measurement, so that after sewing the fabric will lap on my body very well. So you can also go ahead and minus 2 inches from yours. So this is how you close the back dart. So I went ahead to close it by the side back, and I also taper it with my masking tape. So after cutting it, I went ahead to close up the dart like so. So this is the back while this is the front. So we now move ahead and start drafting the upper part of our beautiful gown. So from our starting line, we are going to input our front waistline. Remember, the front waistline and the back waistline is not the same. The front waistline is always longer than the back waistline because of the bust in our front chest. So after getting our front waistline, I went ahead to input my chest line, which is also known as my armhole line. And from my shoulder, I came down by my bust point and also input my bust point. And also from my shoulder, I came down by my under bust. I also input my under bust like so. So how do you get your chest line? Your bust divide by 6 plus 1.5 inches, and because we are doing shoulder slope, we are going to add 1 inch for shoulder slope. So in total you'll be adding 2.5 inches on your on the value that you get from your bust divide by 6 inches. So for the front, I'm going to slope my shoulder by 1.5 inches and now taper it on my neck width. And I'm going to go up by 3 inches for my chest line, come out by 0.75, taper it to my shoulder slope. And on my chest line, I'm going to add my bust divide by 4, and I'm going to complete my armhole curve. While on the waist, I'm going to add my waist divide by 4 plus 1 inch dart intake. I'm going to rule it out to go and meet my bust measurement. And I will now go ahead and complete my armhole curve like so. So on the center front, I'm going to input my nipple to nipple measurement in order to get our dart intake. So I'm going to open up the dart by half inches on both sides. I'm going to rule out the dart leg like so. So after getting the dart leg, remember that we said that the front and the back waist is not the same. So the difference between my front and the back is 1.5 inches. So on my bust point, I'm going to come down by 1.5 and rule it out like so. So to get my side dart. So after getting all our measurements from my bust point and to my under bust, I'm going to divide the value that I have there into 2. While on our shoulder, from our shoulder slope, we are going to come in by 2.5 inches, and we are going to rule it to meet our nipple line like so. So we are going to rule it to meet our nipple line like so. So we are now going to curve it like so. That curving will serve as our neck depth. So if you watch closely, you see that the neck depth is like a cup. So this is how you go about it. So after curving it, we now go ahead and start cutting it. So see how I cut it out. So I went ahead to cut out all our marked value like so. So we are now going to cut it out. After cutting it, we are now going to also cut out our dart, waist dart, so that we can go ahead and close our side dart, because we won't be needing it. So this is how you go about it. You close up your side dart like so, and you taper it with your masking tape to keep it in place. And this, so I did some alteration on the cup neck depth area. So on our nipple line, I went in by 1.5 inches, and I redrew the cup curve like so that it will be more wider. I observe that if the curve run through our nipple, it won't be that wide. So I have to redraw the cup curve. So this, we'll be making use of this new curvy neck depth. So I'm going to go ahead and now cut out our small alteration like so. So I went ahead to cut it out so that the curve will be more wider. So after cutting it out, I went ahead to close up my waist dart, because we won't be needing it, because there is no cup that is running on that front part. So we are going to close up the waist dart. We are going to use our masking tape to tape it down. so we won't be needing that on the pattern. We won't be needing that. And also our fabric is stretchy, and there is also no cup area on that front pattern, so we won't be needing the dart. So we are going to keep it aside, and we will now go ahead and start drafting the back. So from my starting line, which is my shoulder, I'm going to impute my back waistline, which is 14 and a half, while the front is 16. So after getting my back waistline, I'm going to relieve that like so. And from my shoulder, I'm going to impute my chest line. I'm also going to relieve that like so. So the front and back chest line is the same thing. And on the center back, I'm going to impute my shoulder line, and I'm also going to do the same thing on the chest line to get my armhole line. For the back shoulder slope, I'm going to slope the back by 1 inch. So on the center back, on the waist side, we are going to contour our waist because our center back is not straight. So on the waist, I'm going to come in by 1 inch. I'm going to taper that 1 inch to the neck of our beautiful gown so that our center back will be slant, because our natural center back is not straight, it's slanted, thereby eliminating any zipper bulge that the gown will have while inciting our zip. So on the slanted line, we are going to impute our bust divide by 4 value, and also our waist divide by 4 plus 1 inch dart intake. So we have to complete our armhole curve like so. So we are now going to impute our nipple to nipple measurement so that we can go ahead and impute our dart leg like so. So on the shoulder slope, we are also going to come in by 2.5 inches like we did for the front. And for the back curve, our back curve will stop at our chest line. I want our back curve to stop at our chest line for the back, so I went ahead to curve it like so also. So our back is ready. We now go ahead and cut it out. So it's as simple as that. You can see the slanted part, I won't be making use of it. So this is it. This is for the pattern. So all our patterns are ready. This is the back. So this is all our patterns, our back, our front, our the upper part and the down part. So we now start transferring the patterns to our fabric. So I'm going to go ahead and start transferring the patterns to our fabric off camera. So I've gone ahead to transfer the patterns to our fabric, and this is how I added our allowance. On the upper part, I added 1/2 inch, while on the side I added 1 inch, while on the hem part I added 2 inch hemming allowance. And for the zipper back side, I added zipper 1 inch zipper allowance, 1 inch side sewing allowance, 1/2 inch on the upper part. For the upper side, I added 1 inch for the side seam and 1/2 inch all over the other places. And for the back, I also do the same. I added 1 inch side seam, 1 inch zipper intake, and 1/2 inch on the other places: armhole, shoulder, our neck side, and our on the down part of our beautiful gown for joining it with the upper side. So this, watch out for the part 2 for the sewing part. Thanks for watching. Bye.